What's up, everyone? It's me. I'm back with a ComputerCraft video. I'm remaking a previous video for making clickable buttons, and I'm doing this because the old one is still getting a decent amount of views, and I just think that the process I went about of making it is very outdated and just more difficult than it needs to be. So I am making a remake here that is just more efficient, and I think the code is just much better. Anyway, I'm going to jump right into it without wasting any more time. Here we go. This is just an example, maybe just a little login menu. I'm just going to run through it. We got an X button that will end the program. I just have it reboot because I'm using an emulator. And if I shut down, it will close it all out. We got our username field. Click on that. We can type in a username. And then we can go into the password, type our password. And then we got two buttons. We can either create an account or log in. They don't actually do anything. They're just placeholder functions to show that they work. So I'm just going to click on them and you'll see that they both work. I'm going to give you a little rundown of the code and then we'll jump into how it all works and we'll go ahead and make it. So just to real quick, define our own custom functions here. We have a function here to draw the GUI, put in all the text. We got our two placeholder functions for login and create. And then we got our main function here that has our loop for our button presses. And that's really all there is to it. It's very spaced out, so the length of it seems longer than it really is. Probably about 50 to 60 lines of code in total. So without further ado, let's go ahead and create this program. I'm going to call it login. So I'm going to go ahead and start by defining some custom functions because there's 6 of them that I will be using pretty often and they're kind of long to type out. I will explain this as I go because if you're not used to doing this, or if you're also just new to Lua or programming in general, this might seem a little strange or confusing. So what I'm doing here is I'm defining the shortened name that I want, and these 3 dots in it will basically take whatever I put in, what arguments I put in, and pass it on to the actual function that exists already, which is term.setCursorPosition. Gonna put in those 3 dots, and that's it. Just one simple line, and we'll go off to the next one. I'm gonna make one to clear my screen, which is term.clear, and then we need one to set text color, which I'm gonna do just T-col. It's kind of long to type over and over, so it will save you a lot of time if you go and do this real quick. It is pretty fast to actually go and just do this before you start. Oh, Alright, and then we need one for box, because this one is also pretty long and we will be drawing some boxes. And it's going to be a filled box, by the way. There is a non-filled one, and that just draws the perimeter, and we don't want that. And line. Okay, so those are our 6 functions we will be using pretty extensively. And then I will go ahead and just get size here so that we have our maximum monitor size stored in X and Y. Which, if you don't know, if we actually refer to X and Y, it's going to give us our maximum coordinates, which is by default 51 by 19. It's not like too critical we do that because I think there's only one line that we actually use that in, but whatever. I'm going to go ahead and get our draw function here, which is going to handle like all of the graphics, I suppose. And then we'll have main, which will handle the loop and actually take our button presses and see if it's within any boxes. So that's really the meat and potatoes of that. When the program starts, I'm just going to go ahead and let it run main. And inside of main, it's going to start by drawing our menu. All right, so let's go ahead and create our graphics here. So I'm going to clear screen to begin with and set our cursor position in the top left corner. I'm going to go ahead and save and run just so that you can kind of see where we're at. I mean, we're just at a blank screen, nothing exciting. But you can see that it kind of works. We'll go ahead and just give you an example of how this works. We're going to draw a random box, just put in some random coordinates, and we have to put in a color. So we'll just go ahead and make a blue box. And we'll run it. There we go. Blue box. Fantastic. So those shortened custom functions work just fine. So just remember, when I refer to these box, POS, we're referring to the basic functions that exist within ComputerCraft already. If you don't want to go and do that, then you're more than welcome not to. But I am going to be referring to these just to shorten my typing a bit. Anyway, we're going to make a box to serve as our background. So we need to start in the top left corner, which is the first two digits. The first two numbers is going to be the X and then the Y coordinate for the top or the first position of this box. And then for the second position of the box, which is the bottom right corner of it, we need to put the maximum screen size so that we fill the entire screen. And then our colors, let's just go ahead and give it that light blue background color. And there it is. We have our light blue background. And one thing I'm going to do is at the bottom here, I'm just going to set the cursor position in the top left just so that every time we do run it, we don't get that black bar on the bottom and throw everything off. But it's not necessary. So now that we got that, I'm going to go ahead and make the little box to put our little login menu in, that little gray box. So we're going to draw another box, and I have the coordinates already planned ahead to kind of speed things up here. But you can experiment with the screen size and where you want it and just put in numbers and see what happens. That's how I got to this point here. So we're going to make this a gray box. This is going to be for the login menu. I'm going to go ahead and comment these as well. So we got our gray box. Go ahead and run it and you can see it. There it is. So now I'm going to make some lines for our buttons and our text. So we'll go ahead and make our first line. I'm going to kind of go from the top to bottom, by the way. I just find that it's easy to be organized if you do it that way. So I'm going to make the little bar at the top that is dark gray. I'll go ahead and run the actual program that's created so you know what I'm talking about. This little gray bar with the X, that's what we're going to make. So to do that, that's just a line, which is basically a box, but skinnier. Funny how that works. And it's going to be at the very top. So we're going to start it in the same spot as our gray box. And then we need to go we need to go all the way across, and it's going to stay at that same top spot, same Y coordinate. I'm going to make that light gray. All right, and then we want the small line for our X button to go, which will go, I basically just took the maximum size, which is 40 in this case, and subtracted 3 because that's how big the button will be. And 40 does count, so it ends up being 38. And it is still on 6Y, so we're going to do that, make that red, and that's our exit. Make another line for our user text box for them to type their username in. It's going to be within our gray box. For the coordinates, I have 23, 8, 38, and 8. And the colors, I'll just make that black. Make another one for our password. It's pretty easy because it's basically the same thing, just one line or 2 lines down. All right, cool. And then we need our buttons for our login and create. And I'm just gonna go ahead and there we go. These will just go underneath the password text box. So 14, oops, 12, and then it's gonna go all the way to 20 and 12. And how I'm getting these measurements, by the way, 14, like I am envisioning the button is going to say like login, for example, with a space before and after, just because that looks nice. And I just kind of count the characters. So with L, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then with the spaces, that's 6 and 7. So that's 7 spaces. And then 14 to 20 is 7 because you have to count 14 as 1. So that's our login. Oh, and we need to put our color, of course. That's going to be green. Then it's going to be 31, 12, 38, 12, colors dot green, and that's our create. Cool, so let's run it, make sure everything looks good, and voila, that's it. That kind of maps out where our buttons will be. Oops. Alright, so now we're going to put in our text, which is easy enough because we have all our measurements, so pretty much the hard part's done. The most time consuming part anyway. So we're going to set our text color to be black and our background color to be red. You have to do this because when you print stuff to the screen, it's going to take these into account. And we need to make sure, depending on where they're going, it matches the color they're in. So working from top to bottom, we are making our little X. And it needs to have that red background. And then black is just a nice contrast. So we just need to set our position to be where the exit button will be, which I will add 1 to the starting position that we draw with. So in this case, it's going to be 39 and 6. Now we will want to use write as opposed to print, because when we do print, it's not going to format correctly because of that line break. So with write, we can just go ahead and put it exactly where we want it and not have to worry about it. See, there's that X. If I can go ahead and show you what I mean. This is what happens when you put print. Well, nothing actually happened. But what can end up happening is if you are going and setting position somewhere else and printing another thing, like it will mess up your formatting. So just go with write. Promise. I promise you. So next we need to put in our text for our username and our password. So we need to change our text color to go with whatever goes well with gray, because that's the background. So I went with yellow, and then the background color will be gray. Need to set our position. It's going to be to the left of those fields, the user and pass field. So that ends up being 14, 8. I'm going to write username, and then we're going to set position again for the password and write password. And that's where we're at. We got our X, we're prompting them of what to enter. So now let's go ahead and add the login and create, turn them into buttons, just to pretty much visually anyway. So change our text color again to be black, and our background color will be green, because that's the color that we set here. I mean, it doesn't have to, because whatever you put will overwrite it, but it just helps to be organized like that. And then gonna set our position 15, 12, which again is the X is 1 plus wherever you start your line, because you want to have that space. It just looks better. Go ahead and write login and write create. Oh, and of course we need to set our position. All right, so that's all of our information. We've got it drawn out. It looks like it would function, but we haven't added any functionality yet, and that will be in our main function. One thing that you want to do is at the bottom of this, your drawing function here, is you're going to want to set like a default text and color you want for, at least for when they enter information into these text boxes. So the background color, you're probably going to want it to be the same as the line you draw. So the background color will be black in this case. And the text color is just whatever contrasts well. So I'm just going to go with white. All right. And that's it with our draw menu function. That's all done. Now we just need to add our functionality. And that's done with a loop. Go ahead and do a while loop here. And we need to pull an event here. When a user is clicking on the screen, that is an event. And the event is called mouse click. So we're going to define a few variables, one being event, then button, mx, my, and the pull event. What these do, the event is to see exactly which event we're polling. It's going to store it in event. Button is going to determine which mouse button is being pressed, whether that's the left button, the right button, or the middle button. And then these two, the MX and MY, just stand for mouse X and mouse Y. Those are the coordinates of where the mouse cursor is when you click. So we need to make sure that the event that we're checking for is mouse click, because it's always polling events. So we only want this to happen when they click the screen. Cool. Now, here's the fun part. We have all our numbers already, so this makes it easier. It's just a little tedious because we got to kind of go back and forth and look. But I have it open on the side here so I can see what the numbers are. So I'm just going to kind of go through it and explain as I go. So we're going to see if the mouse cursor is greater than 23 and less than 38. And it equals, the Y value equals 8. And button equals 1. So what does this mean? Well, the 23 and the 38, that's the X position. For this is going to be the username box that they type in. And the position for that is 23 to 38. And it's positioned at the 8 Y value. So that's where the 23 and the 38 come from. It's right here. So in your own program, whatever measurements or whatever coordinates you put, just go ahead and refer to this function and what you put up here. It may not be the same as mine. So that's also where we get the 8. And then button equals 1, that just means that if they left click, we ignore if they right click or middle click because we don't care about that. And for that, we can just go ahead and set our position at 23 and 8 because that's where the box is, and get some input from the user and store it in user because they're entering their username. Now, say they want to enter their password, so we're going to do the same thing again. 23, oops, less than 38, and y equals 10, and button equals 1. I'm going to kind of start going a bit faster with these, otherwise, just to kind of shorten the video here. But it's all the same. I mean, as long as you just refer to your draw menu function, you'll know what coordinates to put. So we're going to set our position 2310, and we're going to get the password from them. We'll go ahead and put that in there. That all this does is replace the characters with the asterisks, like the typical passwords. Now, this is what happens if they press the login button. So, I'm gonna type that out. 20, and the Y value is, I believe, 14. No, should be 12 because it's only 2 spaces below the password. And we're going to go ahead and create our little fake function here, just placeholder function. And I'm going to put in a break because otherwise when we run login, we're still going to technically be in this loop. So we'll break out of that. And then create button as well. Same Y value. There. Go ahead and run our create function and break the loop again. And lastly, we have our little X button in the top corner. So we're going to go ahead and put that in there. There we go. And you can go ahead and do whatever. You can shut down, you can reboot, or you can shell.run another program, whatever. We're just going to go ahead and reboot though. And that's it for that if statement. So we need to end that off. We need to end off this if statement. And then, oh man, I apologize. Okay, need to end off the while loop as well. And that's it. We already ended off the function too. Okay, so one thing I'll note here is you may have noticed I did a greater than or equal and then a less than. I just find that I don't, if I put an equal here, the button placement or like the cursor placement is off. I'll show you what I mean. I'm gonna go ahead and run login. Oh, ooh. Let's see what happened. Had a little typo. Oh, put a little parenthesis there. All right, go ahead and run it, and we can click that. This actually is good sign that it works because it's trying to call the login function, but I never created it, so that's fine. Anyway, I'm going to rerun it, and I'm going to click like all around it. Like I'm clicking the pixel next to it, not working, not working. So it is right in there. If I change this, where is it for login to less than and equal? Now, if I click to the right of it, huh? Well, would you look at that? I could have sworn I had issues with it before, so I've always ran with less than. Well, you learned something new. So you can run with less than or equal. Let me just make sure it works well with the less than, because I don't want to give you some jank code. Ah, okay. So, I don't know why I was having issues in the past, but go ahead and do less than and equal for all of these. Don't do less than. Like in my mind, it's always made sense to do less than and equal, but I've ran into issues. Anyway, yeah, that's the complete code. That should work perfectly fine. And then for your functions, for login, we can call them at any point. So I'm just going to go ahead and call them just so that we don't error out when the program runs. So there we go. Boom. Boom. X reboots. Perfect. Username. There we go. Password. Cool. It works great. One little bonus, this is what I like to do if I actually create a menu like this, is for the top one, since we're entering our username, typically people are going to follow up and enter their password. So I'll just kind of automatically position it there and ask for a password as well. And then even after, like, I'll show you what this does. Go ahead, log in. I'm gonna go ahead, enter my username, press enter. Ooh, and we're already in the password field. Didn't have to click it, which is less awkward. But we still have to press enter and then click login. So we could even take it one step further and let it run login at the end of this if we wanted to. So that they type their stuff in, press enter, type their password in, press enter. Oh, it didn't seem to work that time. Oh no, it did work. I just don't have the break. So we'll just put in the break just to show that it works. Bam. Nice and efficient. Anyway, that's my updated clickable buttons tutorial. I hope that this serves you well, and I hope that it is an improvement on the old one. If anybody is here from the old one, thank you for giving this a watch, and thank you for still watching that video to this day. I hope all of you have a good rest of your day, and until next time, bye bye.